This is the Dr. Paul Show, a woman's personal guide to understanding men. And now, here is Dr. Paul.
Hi, this is Dr. Paul. Welcome to the Dr. Paul Show. Who says I love you first? What? What do you mean? Well, I have received many emails this week from people who heard a caller last week. And the question became over and over, who says I love you first? It fascinates me to feel that people are out there who are so afraid of losing face or having their ego damaged. You have to have the strength of character to look that other person in the eye if you really feel that way and say, look, I need to tell you something. I love you. And if the person comes back and says to you, wow, I'm just stunned that you would say that because I can't really honestly tell you that I feel the same way. And what happens to you? You just shrivel? No. You come back. I know how you must think I feel by telling me that. You just turned it around on them. I know how you must think I feel by saying what you just did. But that's okay, because I believe in being honest with people. I have to tell you how I feel. I'm not giving you a time frame. I'm letting you know how I feel. If you feel at some point in time that it's reciprocal, fine. If not, we'll let this thing run its course. But I need to tell you where I am with you. If I find that I can no longer handle it, that I can no longer see you because of my feelings for you, knowing that they're not the same as your feelings for me, then we're going to have to go our separate ways. What does that do? It allows you to maintain your dignity. You still have self-respect. Don't sit there and look crushed, be you male or female, when that happens. It is going to happen. It happens to the best of us. Of course, it hasn't happened about Dr. Paul, but that's another story. Well, maybe. But I was in 5th grade then. Is that right, Mike? Was I younger at that time?
5th grade. That was the last time you experienced something like that.
Of course.
I think that's a little bit of an embellishment, but
I wouldn't say that. like my humble opinion, right? I never had one. The point is that you're going to have to take the initiative. Tell people how you feel. And then if someone says to you, I don't really feel the same way, you go home, you look at yourself in the mirror and ask yourself, why does he or she not see the value in me? It may not be you at all. It may be them. Maybe they can't commit. Maybe they are insecure. Maybe they are narcissistic. Maybe you, having read my book, which is now available on Kindle at $2.99, Boomer Girls, remember that? Fascinating book. Great reference book, and people are buying it. Thank you. Kindle, Boomer Girls. You look in there and it says, don't cast your pearls before swine. Sounds biblical, doesn't it? Because it is. That's right. It says that in there. Trust me. Don't cast your pearls before swine. Are you casting your pearls before this swine, be it male or female? Maybe they can't handle it. They know, believe me, they know how you feel. They may be toying with you. They know. They see you. They can see the love in your eyes, the way you react to them. People feel that. Yet, too often, people sit there and are afraid to tell the other, I love you. I need to let you know how I feel about you. I love you. Is that so hard? No, the hard part is being rejected. You might be shocked. Oftentimes, as I said to the lady last week, and we had a volume of emails on this, oftentimes a man holds it in. Well, I'm not going to say I love you first. That's not the manly thing to do. What? I don't know where that came from, but really what it is insecurity. The manly thing to do is to tell them, not sit there and say, well, I'm a man and I'm not going to tell her first. Well, you're making a big mistake, man. All right, trust me on that one. It's amazing how you'll be shocked at some point in time. You tell a woman, I need to tell you something. I'm in love with you. Bam. Oh, I'm glad you said that because I was so afraid to tell you I feel the same way. Then how are you going to feel? You're going to feel magnificent. Talk about feeling like a man. There it is. Cowardice is what happens when you do not want to do something because you're afraid it's not manly. Well, maybe it's cowardice. Maybe it is manly to man up and say, hey, listen, I need to tell you something. This is how I feel about you. Now, if you like it, fine. If you don't like it, so be it. When they see that attitude, they're going to take a second look at this. Hey, this guy, and I'm talking about guys now, he's in love with me. Maybe I don't want to risk him. Maybe I failed to see some good things in him. At least he had the courage to come up and tell me this. He's not a wimp. It takes guts to do that, guy. Right? It takes guts to say, hey, I need to tell you something. I love you. Bam. That takes courage. I mean, we're not talking about tackling somebody on a football field. We're talking about real courage, that internal mental discipline that we have. That's the real courage. Yeah, funny thing, being in the service, and you see some of these guys come back that have been in combat, as I did. Guys that I taught Uniform Code of Military Justice in the Navy. Okay, so they come back, and guys you think, they're maybe frail or something. These guys come back, and they're the guys that have been really heroes. Okay? The term is really difficult to use. These guys don't like to hear it. But let's say they have had action above and beyond what typically would think of requiring. And you can't look at somebody and say, oh, he's a wimp. Don't be so sure about that. Because when the chips are down, you'll be surprised who comes forward. It could be the big guy. It might be the little guy. Maybe the middle-sized guy. But when the chips are down, you never know. You do not know. Just like in fires, you see people drag people out and they've never done anything courageous in their lives, but they did what had to be done at that point in time. So you too have to do what you have to do at that point in time, whether you're a man or a woman. You got to go with me on this one because I've got an email coming up I'm going to read to you which typifies what I'm talking about. Have the courage of your convictions. Have the courage to tell the other, I love you. Now, don't run around every place telling everybody you love them in order to go to bed with them. That's wrong, too. Obviously, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about sincere, I love you, this is how I feel about you. And a lot of people respect that. Very seldom do I get emails within the last 15 years from people who say, well, he said to me, love me just to go to bed with me. Yeah, it happens. But a lot of people more or less respect that and say, yeah, I'm not going to go there because they're afraid of the repercussions. A lot of people get even when you toy with their emotions. And please believe what William Shakespeare said. Men, are you listening? Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. Believe me. I mean, you've heard all of the horror stories, right? Mm-hmm. The name Bobbitt mean anything to you? Well, that's a horror story. Don't toy with a woman's emotions. As sweet and wonderful as they are, they can be vicious when called upon to be vicious. And ladies, remember the same thing, because there's nothing a guy would rather do when you toy with his emotions than tell everybody in town how he feels about you. And now it's even worse. He goes on the internet. Here's what she did to me. Oops. You know the story about the guy that was at his wedding and they were having the wedding rehearsal or whatever, and they all had these packages taped to the bottom of their seats. He had them open them, and there's a picture of his wife-to-be with the best man, and, the story's over. That was in a compromising position, of course. So don't toy with people's emotions, but tell people how you feel, because love lost is never regained. It sounds poetic, and it is, but the fact is that it's true. It's true. Don't absolutely refuse to say something because you feel you are going to be having your ego bruised. Not if you do it right. Always come back on it. If you're in that position, here's my recommendation. You're in the position to tell someone you love them. You do so, and they tell you, I don't feel the same. What do you do? Okay? We just told you. We're going to pop quiz on this now. All right. What we do is we return and say, look, I know how that must make you feel, okay, to tell me what you did, okay? It probably makes you feel badly to come back with me like that, but that's all right. Suddenly the person's on the defensive. That's how you handle it. That's all right. We'll see how this goes and move on from there. But in the process, you need to know how I feel. It gives you absolute control. All of a sudden, you're concerned about that person's feelings. How do you feel about that, Mike?
I've been in situations where, I've told somebody how I felt about them. And they didn't feel the same way, and that's okay. And then other times it worked out. But definitely honesty is the best policy.
Did you feel crushed when that happened?
No, it was weird. I actually felt relieved.
Really?
Yeah, I felt relieved because I was able to express how I felt. There's nothing worse than actually having that bottled up inside of you.
Well, that's an interesting reaction. I felt relieved. Okay, good. That's when I have had... All right, I'm going to relate a personal experience to you. I related to someone that I did it this way, which was... It probably could have been done a little better, but I said, I think I'm in love with you. Now, I could have been stronger, granted. However, the person came back and said, well, I really don't feel that way. And I said, it's really your loss. It's unfortunate that you don't, because there's so many qualities that I have that you'll never know about. Because since you've said that to me, and at that point in time I said, I'm simply not going to be able to see you again. Guess what happened? About 3 days later, I got a tearful telephone call. But in my mind's eye at that point in time, I couldn't go back. I crossed the Rubicon, right? The door was closed. And I said, I appreciate the fact that you called me. And I know that she gave some excuse about she was still hung up about her former boyfriend, on and on and on. And that's fine. And I maybe at that point in time could have listened, but I didn't. But that was an experience I had. It was like, shut the door, done. That hurts inside, but you must do it. Mike?
Yes, sir.
When you felt relieved, how did you leave it with the person?
How did I do what now?
How did you leave it with that person?
It was, I don't know, in a sense, it was kind of awkward.
Was it sayonara? Was that the end? You never saw that person again?
No, we just kind of
faded away?
Faded away, kind of acquaintances, and, that's just the way it works sometimes. So I wasn't.
Well, you're right.
Yeah, I think I just didn't like the quiet desperation type of feeling.
Quiet desperation, good point. And that's good to avoid. I think quiet desperation is a good thing to avoid. The best thing is to pull the plug. Let the patient pass away. It's the only way to go. I mean, you have a life to live, and so does that person have a life to live. And if you can't live it together and you're not seeing the same things emotionally, then sayonara. Life goes on. We're going to go on to a break right now, and I want you to know that when we come back, you're going to hear a letter from someone who sent it based on a caller we had last week. And I think you're going to really find this to be revealing. We'll be right back.